Welcome, everybody. I'm Santiago Kneeland, and this is The Divine Within, the invisible connection with God. Today, we explore one of the most profound truths of existence, the goodness of God. This is more than a doctrine or an idea. It's the living heartbeat of the universe. The goodness of God is what calls us home, what steadies us in chaos, forgives us in weakness, and lifts us up towards something higher. Joining me for this conversation is Tony, a coach, author, and entrepreneur passionate about understanding life in its fullest meaning. A true global citizen who has lived across 4 continents, Tony brings a unique perspective on faith, purpose, and the universal language of divine goodness. He's also a devoted husband and a father of 2 beautiful girls. So welcome, Tony. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you. Likewise. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
It's a pleasure having you. And today we're going to talk about the goodness of God, which I think is primordial in our existence. So to start us off, we're going to be talking about a good God. And God's goodness isn't theoretical. It's deeply personal. It's the love that meets us when we fail, the mercy that restores hope, and the quiet assurance that the universe is, at its core, benevolent. In this segment, we explore how divine goodness draws us into transformation, trust, showing us that the Creator's love is not just more moral perfection, but living compassion guiding every soul back to light. So, Tony, what can you tell us about the goodness of God?
Wow. um, I think the best way I can describe goodness is an ever-present force that is always leading you into progressive experience of life. So it's like there is no fear, there is no negative feeling, I think fear is actually the key word. There's no fear when I interact with God. So for me, all I see is just like a progression of experiencing more and more and more of life. So that would be a way I would talk about the goodness of God, because fundamentally it is completely restorative in every moment and through every season. And if an individual understands that, you are able to interact with God on a deeply personal and yet deeply grateful, from a deeply grateful standpoint, not from a I'm afraid, or I've done something wrong, or perhaps is there like this fear, this loneliness that many of us can have in our
Mm-hmm.
journey on the earth. The understanding of the goodness of God actually takes that away. So for me, if I was just to summarize, I was saying it is really getting to a place where you progressively experience God in a way that is about more and more and more life.
I like this, what you're saying, Tony, and I get that I believe that we went through an evolution. At first, our relationship with God was fear-based. We didn't really know about what was happening around us, and it was a fear of the elements, fear of what was unknown. And I kind of see the point where you might think that the universe and God particularly is not that benevolent. There's so many challenges, so many things. But I think that process also united us, and made us dependent of each other. It made us into communities, into civilizations. But then we get to a point where that model of viewing God, I mean, we progressively understand more about God. We have instances of revelation, the God revealing himself throughout history. And then
Correct.
we progressively move into this idea of a good God. And can you tell us more about this progression and how we evolved from fear-based to love-based in our conception of God?
Yes. So I think the fundamental difference is the fear. I like how you said the fear versus the love base. Like there's this passage in the Bible that I like to think, because growing up I was raised as a Christian, right? And there's this passage that is, what's the whole sum of life? So Solomon, or the writer of Ecclesiastes, talks about this in the progression of his life, the accumulation of wealth, pain, everything. And at the end, it's like he has come to the realization that the point of life is to fear God and to keep his commands. Right.
Okay.
So, and that to me is the highest of the fear system, because from if you think from an animal standpoint, my background is in animal science, so I work a
Okay.
lot with animals. I have a farm as well, so I work a lot with animals. And when you interact with animals, they function based on instinct, and their
Mm-hmm.
instinct is fight or flight.
Yes.
So that's their primal instinct. our evolution is the same. We came out of that mindset and we still operate a lot in that. The thing is, we then view God in that way, right? Where
Hmm.
we see God as like either we run away from Him or we want to fight, sort of like, or we use God as a weapon, to fight against others. But all of this stems from our understanding of fear.
Yes.
It's because we are deeply rooted in fear. But thankfully our consciousness has been evolving over time, that now we can move from a concept of, oh, God is this all powerful being, to fear. Like, for in the olden days, it's the volcano represented God, like the most, like, terrifying thing represented God. Like for me, I'm from Yoruba, right? I'm a Yoruba indigene. And when we think of God, we have multiple deities, and we say the most powerful one is Shango, which is the thunder, which is like the same of the
Hmm.
Greek, the all
Seals.
powerful thunder. Yeah.
Seals. Yeah, the one that
And
has
it's
the
like,
lightning.
wow, it terrifies you. And it's like what basically what terrifies us the most is what we enthrone as God, and that's who we attribute God to be. And
Okay.
that was our evolution, right? So it's like, if you're terrified of the fire, that's God. So you worshipped that because you're like, oh my gosh, this is destructive. This is, you know.
You
So
better pay respects so that it doesn't destroy you. It's kind of
correct, and you pay,
placating.
and then,
Yeah.
yeah, correct, and your relation to God then is transactional, because you're
Okay.
always trying to get His approval. So if this all powerful being, if God is this all powerful being that can destroy, like the fire, like the volcano, like the thunder, I'm just a little ant. Like, I'm just this little thing. So I got to do something to earn his favor. So it's transactional. So I come thinking, okay, here's my offering. So if you look at the history of humanity, we've always come with sacrifices to God to please, and or rather than please, to appease the gods and to win their favor. Right? So that's the fear-based system. You are afraid, so you're looking for what to do to get the favor of this life that you are afraid of, or this concept of God that you're afraid of. But there is a higher and a better understanding of God. That's one that is deeply rooted in love. The problem with using the word love is that it's so generic. I love pizza. So does that mean pizza is,
Yeah. You apply it
no,
for anything.
correct. We can use love for everything. So instead, I like to use goodwill
Okay.
and or goodness. But I use goodwill because it takes two things together. It takes an attribute and then it takes an intention and brings it together, right? So the good and will. So this is, if we were to think of God now from a standpoint of love, we would say is completely and entirely good and willing his goodness towards us at all time. Like, there is never a time in which we fall out of favor and we have to do certain things to get back into favor. There's never a time that we have to beg for his mercy.
Yeah.
There's never a time that we have to, appease his anger. He's not angry. He's not going to punish us. Like, if you look throughout religion today is basically like, it's like a lifeline of, this is an insurance policy. I got to believe this because I don't know. I'm afraid of the next life. I'm afraid of life after death. Not even just life after that. I'm afraid of death. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is the
Exactly.
most fundamental fear all
Because
humans
it's going
have,
to
right?
happen. You can't avoid it.
Correct. And there's nothing you can do. So because we and our need to control, to know everything doesn't help. So now we want to live as long as we can and everything, but at the end of the day, we're all gonna die. And because we don't have any control of that, it terrifies us.
Yes.
So religion actually, like, it plays to that part of us by saying, hey, if you grab this insurance policy, there is the outcome you can get in the new life. And it's all based on this system. So if you're a Christian, you're going to believe in this sacrifice of this. If you're Buddhist, of course, Buddhism is a bit different because it does not have such a concept of God as such. But like Hinduism and Islam and all the other religions, they have this like
Yeah.
stuff
All
where,
that have a personality, an image
correct.
of the
And then there are
deity.
things you have to do to earn the favor of God, both in this life, but most especially in the afterlife. because you don't want to be on his bad side. If you're on his bad side in the afterlife, hey, there is hell, there's torment, there's punishment, there's torture, right? So we've taken our animalistic fears and we've created God. You know, someone said God created man in his image and man returned the favor. So we've created God in our own image and likeness based on our fear system of flight or fright or fight, you know, and we've basically just like made God into this and we're trying to get his good side because hey, there's a bad side to him, you know.
Yeah.
So the idea of a good willing God is one of there is no beginning, there is no end to the goodness, there's no limit to the goodness that you can experience, which means there is nothing you can do. You are not this undeserving, weak, pathetic being that has to appease the gods. You are a child of God, a family member. You are not, in fact, let's even remove God. I like to remove the idea of God because it can mean different things. You know, different cultures have different understandings of God. So I like to use the word life because it's
Okay.
completely inclusive. We are all children of life, all of us, all like
I like that.
everything that
Children of
has
life.
breath has life. We are alive. We are all children of life. We don't get to claim to have my life is better than your life. My God is better than your God. You know, we are all children of life, experiencing life. And when you think about it, that wait a second, I am alive. There's this life within me that you can gain awareness of and not just live out the everyday routine of, you know, get up, do this, do that, but there's actual life within you you can engage, you can interact with, and you can, you know, build your confidence in. It really takes away the fear of death.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Because
suits
if
you,
you
I
are conscious
think.
of life, then there's nothing to be afraid of.
Exactly, exactly. This is so important. What you're saying, in that everything is based on fear, and of course, if we everything in the way we view God and the universe is based out of fear, of course, we're going to fear death. I mean, and
Correct.
that's something that if somebody tells you, I have never feared death, I think they're lying. I think everybody
Correct.
at a time has that
Correct.
fear. And I mean, you were talking. There's a lot of stuff that you were talking, and let me point out some of the important things. You were talking about this evolution, and I see, as you were saying in the Old Testament, and maybe the height of the fear-based concept of God. But then, I mean, we see it throughout, and when you see Exodus and you see the story of Moses, I mean, that's a
Correct.
God that had, and I understand because that was a nation-building part of history of civilization.
Correct.
They had to
Correct.
be really God, I think, had to be really strict and, "Okay, you can't do this, you can't you go over
Correct.
there. Here's the commandments, do it." All right?
Yes.
Whether I don't think that at first he was bad and then he was good. No, he was always good, but the way that we interpreted him in that point, it was to stabilize or structure something. But then we have Jesus coming. And then that's, I believe, the point where we really transformed that concept, where he showed us that concept of the loving God, and we left behind, or we can put behind, the fear-based, because you said sacrifices, and we had to appease the gods. And I see, I'm a Mexican, and you see that really when the clash of cultures came, when the Spaniards conquered Mexico. One of the things that they saw were the human sacrifices. And what did they do? I
Correct.
mean, it was blood to give to these gods.
Correct.
And in a way, Christianity, which they took that, and it was Jesus's message, although it wasn't his, but they took Christianity, took that concept and brought it there and basically eradicated and prohibited these practices. So I see that starting with Jesus, we begin to have the revelation of a good God.
Correct. And the most fundamental statement I believe Jesus ever made was our Father.
Yes.
That takes away all like it takes away all fear. It takes away all illusion of distance. It takes away all illusion of bad punitive attitude towards you. Because I am a father, right? I have two daughters, and there is never going to be a point in my life that I have bad intentions towards them, or I want things to go bad for them. I'm never going to wish cancer or death or anything evil on them. Never. All I do every day is to try to create the best life for them, right?
Yeah.
And that is me being human, me being an individual who participates in life, but not the creator of life, right? I'm
Okay.
merely participating in life. Now think about how good the creator of life has to be. Because on if we I tell people, if our concept of God is less than the highest ideal of an individual, we are so off. And then if our worst concept of God is higher than the highest concept of an individual, we are still so off. Like we need to begin to concept, like, to think of God way beyond the greatest ideals of human consciousness and civilization and behavior. So, for example, if you were to say, who is a good person? You would say, oh, a good person is somebody that always treats people well.
Mm-hmm.
When you meet this person, you can trust them. You just know this guy is not going to do this evil to me, right?
Yes. Yes.
That is very low if we want to think of who God is and who life is, because we have to go way beyond that,
Yes.
because this is
That's
just
like the floor of God, and we need to get to the top.
correct. So if we have a concept of God that is less than that, we are completely wrong. So when you think about the life of Jesus, he is coming to reveal a family. He's using that metaphor of the father, the one whom the kids all run to, the one whom the kids find sustenance from, our Father who is in heaven. And then he says, give us each day our daily bread. So we look to life as both our origin and our sustenance on a day-to-day basis. And we can
Mm-hmm.
actually approach life as children of life for the bare reason that we are alive. Like,
Yes. Yes.
that's the foundation of our interaction with all life. We are children of life. And as such, Jesus really, really, he broke down all the barriers. It's not, oh, if you're Jew, then your God is good. If you are
Yeah.
Christian, your God is this.
He was for everybody, Jew or
Correct.
Gentile,
Jew, Gentile, it
and
didn't matter.
also people, and this is we're talking about the dignity of people. I mean, even people that were there considered outcasts or like lepers, he tended them, and
Correct.
broke everything that we
The
conceit.
poor, the rich, across the board, we all can say, Our Father. And this is seriously consequential, because if we all have the same Father, then it means we are all one family. And if we are all one family, we should be able to give to one another the goodness, the goodwill we receive from our Father. So that's why he says, we receive your forgiveness as we forgive those who offend us. Because whether we like it or not, in human interactions, there's going to be offense. We're going to do things that we don't
Yes, it's
like.
part of the
We're going to,
process.
correct, we're going to hurt each other. But rather than me holding you hostage and saying, hey, you've hurt me, you got to pay for it. If I'm doing that, it means I don't understand the true nature of life towards me, because every day I make mistakes and life gives me an unending chance to
Mend them. Yes.
to amend them every day without me asking. I don't go to bed and say, please give me one more day. I don't beg for one more minute. I simply receive life. I experience life on a day. I go to sleep. Go into unconsciousness. I wake up the next day and I'm conscious again. And I have no control over that. I experience life. The same way
Hmm.
we experience the goodness of life or the goodness of God is the same way we can interact with each other. We should all have a blank slate of forgiveness with every individual, because that is what we have received. And that's the foundation of taking us out of a fear based system into a love based system. first seeing life as our Father, God as our Father, and consequentially seeing each other as members of that same one family.
That is so lovely.
On the Divine Within podcast, we'll share real conversations to help you find a personal connection with God. My goal is to support your faith, growth, and journey toward discovering the divine within yourself. Join us to deepen your faith and spiritual journey.